So we're gonna be telling, like we said earlier, part of this story of Nehemiah, and the kind of title for this morning is Building God's Kingdom Together, and what is your calling? And we're going to bring that out towards the end. But first of all, I think we're going to need a bit of help. Isn't that right, Jenni?
Right. Well, the thing is about characters or people that stories about people in the Old Testament is they've got tricky names. So there's a couple of tricky names in the story, and maybe you can say Nehemiah. There's two ways of saying it, Nehemiah or Nehemiah. We're going to stick with Nehemiah because it fits better with what I'm going to do next. But if I say Nehemiah, shout Nehemiah at me, just because it'd be fun. Well, I think it'd be fun.
That would be fun.
Thanks. Okay. So, knee, your knee.
Knee.
Everyone point at your knee.
Knee.
My. Okay. Knee. My. Okay, can you do that yourself? I'm going to watch, see if everyone's pointing at doing the actions in the right bit. Andrew, were you watching?
I was watching, yeah.
Can you show me?
Knee. My.
Right, so we've got Nehemiah. There's a more trickier one later. We need a volunteer.
Now,
Andrew,
actually, I heard Nehemiah was a bit of a dancer. So actually, I think Zayden here would be brilliant. So why don't you come up? I made that up about him being a bit of a dancer, but
okay.
He probably
Zayden,
was. Zayden.
Could you come and stand just here for me? And could you put these glasses on? Thank you. I'll just make sure I've got all the things I need. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about Nehemiah.
Do you mean my?
We won't do that throughout the whole thing because it'll take forever and we'll be here until Tuesday. So, Nehemiah, okay, he was pretty important. And I think he must have been a cool dude. That's why he's got sunglasses on.
Well, he was a friend of Jesus, wasn't he? So he was a cool dude.
He was one of God's people. He was one of God's people. Yeah. And I've got a phone for you here. Because, you know, successful, important people have phones, and it seems like the bigger your phone, the more successful you are. So, there you go. It's not actually going to work, but I know it looks really real. And he was friends with the king. And so I reckon he must have had the king's number on speed dial. Now, I don't know any of you, but I can't call the queen up. So that's a pretty important, to be able to speed dial the king.
It's a little bit like the Prime Minister, isn't it? Because the Prime Minister in this country, he has a speed dial, I think, to the Queen, because he has to go ask the Queen for permission to do things. Yeah. So he was a bit like the Prime Minister, maybe.
Yeah. And thanks, Zayden. You're such a great actor. What his title was, he did have a title. So he was like besties with the king, BFFs. But he also had a job, and his job was called the cupbearer. So, now, it's not a cup, but in those days they would have been drinking wine. So I've done it like that. So if you could hold that for me.
So what is a cupbearer? Does anyone know? Anyone here on the carpet, adults or children? Anyone know? Stop the children. Anyone know what the cupbearer would have done? Child or adult? I don't know. You're my child. I'm going to go, but Tom, can you give us a...
Did they taste the wine to make sure it wasn't poisoned?
Is that right, Jenni?
That is
one of the things they did.
I'm not the king. And I haven't got wine, but I have got a biscuit that's mine. Oh, that rhymes. So, what I'd like you to do, Zayden, Nehemiah, is take a biscuit out and just make sure it's not poisonous. Because, I'm going to have that later, and I'd rather not die today.
Yeah.
That's two. I mean, you can try both of them. That would be good, and then I can have both of them later. Yeah? Not allergic to anything, are you? No, good. Glad I asked
Should have asked that first.
Health and safety. Brilliant. So, hang on a minute. Yeah.
You all right? Should we check for vital signs? Pulse? Yeah, I think you look all right.
Breathing.
You definitely haven't gone pale.
Great.
Okay, amazing.
Okay. So he was one of God's people, and his future was pretty sorted. So he was all right. I mean, he was one of these people who you could look up to. People were probably a little bit jealous of him, and he was all right in his life. So that's Nehemiah. We need another volunteer now.
Is this for...
The king.
The king. I'd like to pick...
Hang on, I've got quite a small costume, just to...
Okay, that's going to change then. Cara. Come back to you. Cara, I think we can have a lady king. I think that,
Oh, yeah, lady king. I'm all for equality. Right, yeah. So if you could put that on. You might want to put this on first, actually. Okay, good. Good girl. She's used to difficulties. Brilliant. So, this king is called Artaxerxes. Okay, so I think you've probably gathered that I will have some sort of action for that. You all right? Are you ready,
I'm
King?
ready. King, are you ready? How you doing?
Need a bit of help? Sorry, we should have got a dresser. There we go. Okay, so... Oh, sorry, it's not even Artaxerxes, it's Artaxerxes. But there's a lot of you thinking she's got that wrong. Okay, so art, I want you to pretend that you're painting or drawing, please, Pippa. I'm going to point people out if they're not doing it. Axe, so you're going to chop some wood. Like as if you don't know what to say next. And then seize. Okay, so art. Axe. Seize. Brilliant. Okay, Andrew, can you just make sure you know it?
Okay, so let's try this.
This is the test, you
see. Axe, seize.
Okay, so he's the king, and he's the king of Persia, which we think might be somewhere around Iran in the Middle East now. And his dad was called Xerxes, so that's why he's called Artaxerxes. And he relied on Nehemiah. So we already talked about that. He relied upon it. Maybe you should stand next to him. Is that all right? Yeah. Thank you. I'll move my biscuits. So he relied on Nehemiah. He was his bestie. He was a really good king. He knew about the Bible, the God of the Bible, but he probably didn't worship him. But we're not totally sure about that. And apparently, can you put your hands out for me? Apparently, he had one hand longer than the other.
Yeah, definitely the right hand. I can clearly see it. Much longer. Yeah,
brilliant.
We
obviously definitely chose the right person. Excellent. So, that is Artaxerxes. Brilliant. Would you like to give these two a round of applause? Okay, you guys can sit down for the moment. We may well call you back. And then we need one more volunteer.
You know what? I was just thinking, maybe I'd go for an adult one. I was thinking, actually, Adrian over here has had a brilliant summer of doing things and being involved. So, Adrian, why don't you come up?
Yes,
and
Adrian.
You can be our third
Okay,
volunteer.
Adrian, we'd like you to sit in the chair. And then we're going to quiz you. No, we're not really. No, we're not. Hang on, we'll get this right. Don't read that bit out, all right? That's for later. Okay, so, can anyone guess what Adrian is in the story?
You can hold it up.
A chimney? A what? Santa.
That works. I heard...
It's a bit early for that,
maybe
isn't it?
Humpty Dumpty?
Yeah.
Humpty Dumpty, could it be?
Anyone else but my son? Yes? A wall. Good girl, well done. So, this is a wall. We don't need any actions for that. I think we can all say wall, can we?
Wall.
Brilliant. Okay, so, in the story that we're talking about today, about Nehemiah, there's a wall. And I know it's not really a character, but it's in the story. So, are you going to explain this bit, or am I?
I think you are, yeah.
Okay, brilliant.
Go on.
Yeah. The wall?
The wall.
Adrian, do you want to do it? No. Okay, so, God's people had left their land, and this wall was the wall around Jerusalem. That was their city, God's city. And they'd left it a long time ago. Now, the wall was in ruins.
It wasn't in good shape.
Are there any nurses or...
Any nurses
doctors,
here?
first aiders? Anyone who might be able to put some bandages on Adrian?
To a hand shoot up there? Julia, come over here, Julia. Amazing.
Oh, we'll get Julia, because apparently she knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
I'm sure you do as well. So, could you put some bandages on Adrian, please? Maybe around his head, because that'd be funny. And arms. So, the wall was in ruins. Was not in a good state. There was bits knocked down. It was in pieces. Okay? So, I'm handing over to you after this.
Yep, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to continue the story. So actually, we've asked, just as the wall gets bandaged up and patched up there, we've asked some of our friends to help us just tell a little bit more of the story. So what we've got now is we've got a little video just to watch, which is going to tell us a little bit more of the story. So everyone, if you just fix your eyes up on the screen just for a couple of minutes. And
Adrian, you're all right standing there, sitting there? Okay, good.
Okay, let's watch the video.
There was an Israelite still living in Babylon named Nehemiah. He was the cupbearer to King Artaxerxes.
He's the king that sent Ezra back to Jerusalem.
Right. But why did he need someone to hold his cup?
Didn't he know how?
Kings were always worried about enemies putting poison in their drinks, so a cupbearer was the person in charge of everything the king drank and everything he drank out of.
That's right. Kings had to trust their cupbearers so much that the cupbearer was usually one of the king's closest friends.
What's that have to do with Jerusalem's walls?
Well, another Israelite who'd been to Jerusalem told Nehemiah that the walls were in terrible shape. The Israelites had been back for almost 90 years and no one had gotten around to fixing the walls. So Nehemiah decided to do something about it. He went to King Artaxerxes and asked for permission to go back to Jerusalem. He even asked the king for all the supplies he would need to rebuild the walls.
That was pretty bold.
It was. King Artaxerxes could have been upset. He could have been suspicious. He could have said, "No way, Jose, I need you here keeping me safe." But the Bible says God moved in Artaxerxes' heart, and he smiled on Nehemiah and gave him everything he asked for.
Wow, so Nehemiah went back to Jerusalem and rebuilt the walls. Did those pesky neighbors mind?
You bet they did. They didn't want Jerusalem to be strong again, and strong walls make strong cities.
His neighbors sent Nehemiah threatening letters, trying to get him to stop, but Nehemiah kept working. So they started gathering soldiers to attack Jerusalem and stop the work. But Nehemiah heard about the plan and stationed guards all around the workers to protect them. He had the workers keep their swords with them all the time, and they had trumpets to blow if anyone saw an enemy coming. Nehemiah asked God to give them strength to finish the huge job, and before their neighbors could do anything about it, Jerusalem's walls were done.
Amazing.
So, we introduced the three characters. What happened next? So, Nehemiah started thinking about this wall and wondering how it was.
Yeah, but he was a really, really important person, was he? And why would, someone like the Prime Minister go thinking about building a wall?
Which was miles away.
It's funny, isn't it?
Long time ago, he'd seen it, probably. Yeah. Well, it was because God spoke to him, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah. And so he sent a messenger out to go and have a look at the wall. The messenger came back and he found it really upsetting, didn't he? He was really upset. It
actually says in the verse in Nehemiah 1 that when he heard the news about the wall being and the people not being in a good way, he actually cried. He got really upset and he prayed this really deep prayer asking God to help.
And so he asked the king, Artaxerxes, and he wasn't expecting him to say yes, to let him go and rebuild that wall. But he had I can't remember what the words were, his heart was moved, which is pretty cool, actually. Yeah. And he let him go and he gave him all that he needed to do. And it wasn't an easy task, because you could see afterwards there were people that didn't want him to rebuild that wall. So, Andy, this story, is it just about bricks and cement and stuff?
I'm not sure it is. I think a little bit like David's sum earlier. I think there are some parallels here, some spiritual parallels that actually talk to us here today. And the first of those, I think, is this wall. So this was, in Nehemiah's time, he was building this wall to build God's kingdom. But the parallel, we think, if we turn it around, is that maybe God asks us, what he does in his Bible, to build his kingdom here today. So we've got a little representation of the wall actually being God's kingdom. And that is because, as we look at God's kingdom today, a bit like the wall actually, we look around the world, don't we? And we see some things that don't quite feel right. Do you remember that the wall was broken, it wasn't in a good way? I wonder, anyone here who can tell me things, whether it's things they know in their lives or at school or in their community or in the world, that things that don't quite seem right or okay? Do you want to shout it out? Bullying. So bullying happens. That doesn't, it's a bit like the wall. That's not okay, is it? That's a bit broken.
That's not the way God
wants it to be. Is there anything else that people can think of, maybe in the world, or things that happen?
Anything anyone's seen on the news or heard about? Yep. War.
Yeah, there's war.
Someone say terrorism. Yep.
Yeah.
Terror attacks. Yep. Any of the adults feeling moved by things that we're seeing on the news at the moment? Hurricane Harvey, and the floods that are around the world in Bangladesh as well. Refugees, yep. I'm not going to give you a lip balm, no. I think that's not really part of the story. So there's lots of stuff that's going on that we see on the news and that in our own communities, maybe in our families. It isn't the way that God planned it. It's not the way he wants his kingdom to be. And so we believe that God is calling each of us. You can take your bandage off if you want to.
Yeah.
Okay, great. We believe that God is calling each of us to do things to rebuild his kingdom, just like Nehemiah. And so what kinds of things could they be? So God called Nehemiah out of his really different job to do something totally different that was hard work and people didn't want him to do it. So it could be that we're being called to do something that is hard, that is different.
So starting down here, who can tell me something maybe that God might call them to do to build his kingdom? So earlier on someone said bullying, so I want to go over here. Use the mic this time.
To give encouragement to those who are going through bullying.
Amazing.
That's a great one.
That's brilliant. So maybe that's something that you could do. And anyone else? What are the other kind of things do you think we can do down on the carpet here to help build God's kingdom?
Pray.
And that's really interesting, isn't it? Because that's exactly what Nehemiah did when he heard the news straight away. He prayed. And prayer is really important, isn't it?
So what we're going to do now is spend a little bit of time, everyone spending a bit of time thinking about what God is calling you to. And maybe it is something that is really different, that you never thought that you could do, or that other people wouldn't expect of you, that you are going to be part of rebuilding of his kingdom. So do you want to carry that on?
Yeah, I think what could that be? It could be in our local community, couldn't it? We have we have a food bank in our local community, and it could be going to help be part of the food bank. It could be as simple as going and knocking on your neighbour's door who you've never spoken to before. I believe that's building a relationship with people, is building God's kingdom. It could be helping someone elderly with their shopping who are struggling. I think there's so many things. It could be going to do a month in another country and helping some mission work. I just think there's so many things when we talk about God's kingdom and what it is that God can call us to do. Jenni.
So what we're going to invite you to do now is write down what you feel God is calling you to. Underneath the ends of the rows, for the people that are sitting down, is some paper that are in the shape of bricks and some pens. And we've got some up here for people that are on the carpet, and some pens. So I'd like you to, if you can't write, or you find that tricky, then maybe draw a picture or a symbol. And then we're going to create a wall over there. Obviously, there's already a wall, but we're creating a new wall. And so have we asked somebody to help us do that?
I'm not sure we did.
We did. Who was that?
No, we didn't.
Oh, we didn't?
No.
So we need somebody to help
Jenni.
build that wall with blue tack. So if we could... Is it possible to have some music while people think about this? So if you've got the paper and pens under your chair, then take them out and pass them down the row. And then if you're sitting on the carpet, there's the bricks here and pens here. So
I'd really I'd encourage the adults here just to take a couple of minutes and just to maybe in a prayerful moment, just think about, is there anything in my life today that maybe I'm not doing that God's calling me to do to help build his kingdom here today? And for you children, the same, guys. You can have a little chat maybe with some friends. What is it that God is asking you to do to build his kingdom? So like we said, we're just going to spend a few minutes to do that. Please do get involved. Make sure you've got your pen and paper. And once you're ready, go over to Jenni, and we're going to together build God's kingdom over here on this wall. Okay.